SAP HANA. What is this HANA system?
Sorry for the disturbance. We are
Yes.
unable to see our screen. Please
Okay,
share your
sorry. I
screen.
just forgot to share the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope now you can see my screen. Okay. So what is this SAP HANA system? The definition or the abbreviation of SAP HANA system is High Performance Analytical Appliance. High Performance Analytical Appliance. This is what the abbreviation of SAP HANA. High Performance Analytical Appliance. This is the name of the system. It is nothing but a database. SAP HANA is called as database. So, if it is just a database, what is this hype and craze about this particular product? If you look at the market, this is one of the top selling product, the top paid product also in the market. Why it is so different from other databases? What is making it so different is, in order to understand and appreciate the functionality of HANA database. This is our HANA database. SAP HANA database. Okay. So, to understand HANA database, first we need to understand what is a regular database and how the regular database is different from HANA database. Okay. So, what is our regular database? The traditional database is called as a regular database. The traditional database is called as a regular database. Traditional database. Traditional DB. There are a number of RDBMS systems available. RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. For example, Oracle, MS SQL, Teradata, MaxDB. There are a number of databases available. Okay. So a traditional database like RDBMS system, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, Teradata, and so on and so forth. Any relational database you take, the primary functionality of database is to store or write any transaction into the database. The primary functionality of the database is to store or write the transaction into the database. Okay, this is what the primary responsibility of the database, writing or storing the data into the database as quickly, efficiently as possible. Understood? So always in the traditional fashion, whenever a transaction happens, the transaction has to be efficiently and quickly stored into the system. So the focus is always on the write functionality when it comes to traditional databases. Okay, so in traditional database, the primary functionality is always on write functionality. So what happens whether I'm directly writing into the database? In case of OLTP, what is this OLTP? OLTP. Okay. This is what OLTP. OLTP. So these systems are referred as OLTP. OLTP stands for Online Transaction Processing System. When you talk about Online Transaction Processing System, as the name itself implies, this is a system that is primarily focuses on handling transactional data. As soon as transaction happens in any company, the data has to be efficiently stored in the system. So this system is primarily maintained for storing data. Okay, that is, write the data into the system and store it efficiently. That is the primary focus of this OLTP system. So what is possible out of this is, why would we want to store this data? What we understand that if I want to do any kind of operational reporting, if I want to do any kind of operational reporting, okay, so if I want to do any kind of operational reporting, what is operational reporting? How much did I sell today? What product I should buy in this store tomorrow so that I can continue to sell products in my store? That is called day-to-day operational reporting. That is all a transactional database is built to do. At the end of the day, any company wants to use database. The primary purpose is save the data or save transactions so that I can do some operational reporting. That is the main purpose of traditional database. So this was perfectly fine in 1970s and 1980s. If a company had just a traditional database, it was more than sufficient for the user to use this. But what happens with the change in technology or in change in the market, everything started becoming globalized. Okay, so with globalization, it was not just sufficient for us to understand operational reporting. We needed to go for something called as intelligent reporting. We needed to move into intelligent reporting, which means that I need more advanced level of reporting. It is not just sufficient to know what happens to today so that I can replenish my product for tomorrow. In addition to that, I should be able to go back in time and look at my historical data. Try to come up with a predictive pattern. If in the last summer the best selling product was X, I should be able to say in this particular summer, what are all going to be the new products I can sell. I should be able to do trend analysis. I should be able to do forecast analysis. I should be able to do predictive analysis. All these kind of intelligent reporting became a necessity. Understood. And when this necessity came up in the organization started moving from OLTP system into OLAP system. So it starts moving from OLTP systems into OLAP systems. Okay, so OLAP stands for Online Analytical Processing System. As the name suggests, this is a system that is maintained for analytical purpose. Okay, it's not just enough to store the data, but store data has to be analyzed in a correct fashion so that the organization can use it for right kind of decision making. So several products came into existence, and these products are called as data warehousing products. Understood? Data warehousing. So SAP is again the market leader when it comes to data warehousing application. Data warehousing. Data warehousing. SAP is market leader in data warehousing application. Okay, so we use a tool called SAP BW. So what is the data warehousing tool SAP has? That is SAP BW. This is what? SAP BW. Okay, SAP BW. Whenever we talk about SAP software, we refer to as application layer. SAP BW is what? It is the application layer, which means that the actual software resides in a layer called as application layer. And SAP system is always contains two separate layers. One is BW layer, that is the application layer, and it is always backed up by a database. It is always backed up by a database. This is the database, DB layer. Every SAP application will have a DB layer. Okay, so even though this particular system, SAP BW system, was created for intelligent reporting, for doing analytical purposes, we understood that the database it was associated with was still a relational database management system like Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, Teradata, whatever it is. So what did we understand? Anytime we are associated with the regular database RDBMS system, what is going to be its main functionality? Its main functionality is to write the data into the database or store the data into the database. But writing data into the traditional database in a transactional system makes a lot of meaningful sense. How quickly I can capture the transaction and load it into the database, right? So, but when you come here into data warehousing application, writing into the database is still a very critical event. But even more critical is reading the data. That is, if I want to run a report, generally, why do people come by heavily investing money on this application? Is they want to do reporting out of the system. So, what is reporting? Reporting is read functionality. I should be able to read the data that is sitting in the system in extremely fast manner so that I can make right kind of decisions. Okay, so but what happens in this typical scenario is, even though the application layer, that is SAP BW, is the most advanced and most capable, it is able to create objects, multidimensional objects in the system. It's only as capable as its underlying database, right? So I just give you an example to understand. If you have a Ferrari, if you have a body of Ferrari and if you have engine and work of a normal Toyota Japanese car, it is only going to be powerful as its underlying engine, right? So if you look at the data warehousing application, SAP BW, its primary focus is on readability. But as I pointed out, the system is only as capable as its underlying database. Understood? Any confusion here? If the underlying database used to be a relational database management system like Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, then what happens? The system is still only able to do good write functionality because the underlying is still a traditional database. Understood? Any confusion? So the read functionality was taking a significance. Imagine 10 years back, if a report 10 years back, if a report took 2 or 3 minutes to bring back the result, it was considered to be a very excellently performing query. There was no issue. Every company could accept data coming back in 2 or 3 minutes, even in 10 minutes. That was acceptable. In the current market, If you go to any large organization and you say that my report runs for 5 minutes, they will think that still you are in stone stage. That means that gone are the days where people can wait for 5 minutes to generate a report. Everything has to be instantaneous. So how is the data warehousing application like SAP BW help to generate this fast reporting performance? They did not have anything inbuilt. So what they did is they started using a new appliance called BWA. They started using a new appliance called BWA. Hold for a moment, please. So SAP started using a new appliance called SAP BWA. BWA stands for Business Warehouse Accelerator. Again, this is a separate appliance. When an organization buys SAP BW system, they only get the BW layer and the database layer. So in addition to this, they had to go and buy a new product called SAP BWA. What is this BWA is? It is an in-memory system. SAP, can you please mute your mic? I can hear some background noise. Okay? Okay. So, what is this BWA? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you at least.
Can you hear me now?
Your mic's muted now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
So we are talking about BWA application. What is this BWA? It is an in-memory system. What is in-memory system? Whenever I get data from source system like OLTP, okay, I push the data into the BW application. So I will load the data from OLTP system into BW application. Okay, and from there data will go and reside in database. Okay, so before BWA could happen in the system, if a report was to run, what used to happen? The report could first talk to the application layer, that is SAP BWA. From the application layer, I would go down, get the data, come back, okay, and show it to the report. The time taken to read information from database layer, where does the database layer stores data? It stores data in a mechanical device like hard disk drive. It stores the data in a mechanical device, that is hard disk drive. Okay, so the question is why it is taking time to read data in a transactional database is the system is maintaining the data in hard disk. What is a hard disk? It is a mechanical device. If you understand the concept of device, mechanical device, whenever a data is searched for, there is like a spindle. It has to spin through the entire data in the hard disk drive to identify where the data is located and bring back that information. So even though the application is powerful, you are limited by the mechanical device capacity. So normally, general concept, when you buy a computer or something, what you would have seen is it will say it has 480 or 280 or 380 RPM. You will have 480, 280, 380 RPM. What is RPM? Rotation per minute. How many times can a mechanical device be rotated to get the information back? So this RPM means these many rotations can be happened per minute. 480 RPM for example. These many times it can be rotated to search the data. So these are the limitations, physical limitations when it comes to a mechanical device as to how it can load the data or extract the data in order to overcome this. So SAP said I am going to introduce a new appliance called SAP BWA. This is a completely in memory, which means that I don't have to worry about mechanical device. Understood? I don't need to worry about mechanical device. But what was the limitation with this is whenever a data was loaded from the source system, okay, I first still have to load into the database. It is a traditional database, and then copy the data into the memory system. So I need to copy the data into the memory system. So any point of time I was keeping redundant information both in database layer and BWA layer. The biggest limitation is the redundancy of information. And second thing is this does not come as a cheap product. This itself, SAP BWA application itself runs several $1 million. So the application, so in order to achieve the reporting performance, companies had to go and buy this SAP BWA and the database, SAP BWA and the database. So there were dual maintenance, BWA system and your database in the system. Okay. So looking into all these process, what SAP did. It is going to be loaded into BWA. So it is a dual maintenance. Okay. So what SAP did, okay. So this is just a concept of BWA. Now we will discuss about SAP HANA. How SAP HANA has developed. We'll discuss about how SAP HANA has been developed. This is what SAP HANA. SAP HANA. Now we understand what technologies make this SAP HANA extremely fast. How is it different from other relational database management system? So what it is. Now we have understood what is in-memory application. Understood. When it comes to this BWA system, for the better performance of the reporting, what we did, we need to maintain a separate layer called BWA, a separate application called BWA. So once we maintain the separate application BWA, this application layer does not need to go to this database layer, traditional database layer. It will be redirected to the BWA application. So here in BWA application, the entire request will be processed. It is a in-memory application. Understood? When it comes to traditional database, what you are going to do here, when you are requesting a particular transaction, this application layer needs to communicate with the database layer, and it has to fetch the data from database layer into SAP BWA layer. Then it has to put the data in buffer, and then it is going to process your request, so which is taking lots of time. But when it comes to SAP BWA system, the entire database data will be stored into this BWA, which is a in-memory application, and whenever a request comes from the users, the request will be redirected to the BWA and your request will be processed here itself. But we are maintaining two systems here, and again we need to hold for a moment, please. So the request will directly go to a BWA system and your request will be processed here itself. It does not need to go to the traditional database, and it does not require to fetch the data from this layer into again SAP BWA. So SAP BW, directly the request goes to the SAP BWA and your request will be processed here itself. This is the concept of in-memory. Okay, so now we'll discuss about SAP HANA, how it is developed. SAP HANA. What technology makes this SAP HANA system extremely fast and how it is different from other relational database management system? Okay, so now we know that SAP HANA database is an in-memory database. It is called IMC, in-memory computing engine. SAP HANA database is also called as IMC object. IMC stands for in-memory computing engine. Okay, this is the name of SAP HANA database. How does the database do everything in memory and not load the data into the traditional ways, not into physical mechanical devices? It is not one tool that is making SAP HANA work in this fashion. So what is SAP HANA did? SAP HANA went and utilized three different products that were available in the market. It acquired three different products and combine its functionality together. That is how SAP HANA became such a powerful hybrid database. So what happened is, if you look at it, SAP HANA is not the first in-memory tool provided by SAP. What is the first in-memory tool provided by SAP? That is SAP BWA, which we have discussed now. So what happened is, SAP has already created a tool called SAP BWA. Okay, this is what accelerator tool. How it is started? It started as a student project in SAP in the year 1996. A student project was started and that became so successful. What they did is, they looked at Google functionality and all that. When they looked at some of the current technologies, what they did is they came up with the student project, and this became very successful in-memory tool. So what SAP did was, when it wanted to create this SAP HANA database, they did not want to reinvent it completely. So they use the underlying technology of SAP BWA. BWA is a system for in-memory computing system, right? Okay, so the in-memory computing functionality of BWA is referred to as REX. Okay, TREX. So the in-memory computing functionality of BWA is referred to as TREX. TREX is the in-memory computing functionality of BWA system. So what SAP HANA did, it leveraged and it took the TREX functionality and added that into SAP HANA. So SAP added the TREX functionality in this SAP HANA. Okay. Okay. So this is what TREX. So where we say that data is able to store information in memory and compute information in memory and bring it back information extremely fast. All that capabilities are performed by the functionality of SAP HANA, which is TREX. What is TREX? TREX stands for text retrieval extraction. Okay, so when they started it as a student project, it became very successful and it is used, this technology is used in BWA application. Okay, so this is what TREX. TREX is what? Text retrieval and extraction. So that is in-memory computing. This is what in-memory computing functionality. And then the second functionality. This is the first functionality which is added in SAP HANA for in-memory computing functionality. And the second functionality, what is the second functionality? Where we are saying this SAP HANA relational database management system is still a relational database management system. What is relational database management system? The core concept, the primary functionality of relational database management system is to store the data efficiently. Understood? OLTP systems like RDB system has the capability to write data extremely efficient, right? So we still want the capability of writing the data into database. That functionality we want to have in this HANA database. So just by going into memory computing functionality, I don't, just hold for a moment. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Okay, so we still want the right functionality in SAP HANA database. Just by going into memory computing functionality, I don't want to lose the traditional way of writing the data into the system extremely fast. So this text is going to be help to retrieve the data extremely fast. But to retrieve the data, I need some kind of data loaded into the database, right? So I did not want to completely forego the traditional approach of a relational database, which is write functionality. Understood? So in order to maintain the right functionality capability in the system, in order to incorporate this right functionality into the system, what can I do? SAP was thinking, what can I accrue to maintain that right capability into the system? So that's why SAP went and acquired a product called as P star time. P star time. Okay. So P star time is a lightweight RDBMS database. When I say lightweight, it is not designed This P star time database is not designed for dealing with hard drive based writing. It is lightweight, which means that it is built specifically for writing into memory. It still does the relational database functionality of writing, but it is a lightweight database. It means that it is specially designed for writing extremely fast into the memory. Okay, so this is the second product which SAP added into this SAP HANA database. Understood? This is the second product which SAP added into HANA database, P start time, by which you will get the right functionality of RDBMS database. Understood? So this is the second product which SAP added. Any confusion as of now? Then,
So, P time you're talking about, it can still handle large amounts of data, right?
yes,
Even though it's light.
yes, even though it is light means it is not designed to write the data into mechanical device like hard disk drive. It is specially designed to write the data only in memory. It cannot
Yes.
write the data in mechanical device. Understood? So that is the reason it is more faster than when it comes to other databases. Understood? Then finally, the third technology. Can you tell me what is SAP's own database? SAP also has developed one database. SAP also developed one database. Can you tell me what is the database? MaxDB, which is SAP's own database. Understood? So this MaxDB, what is this MaxDB? Why it is required? Already we have Trex, which will provide you in-memory computing functionality, and P start time is a database. P start time is a technology which provides you the right functionality of traditional database. Again, why we are going for the third product, which is called SAP MaxDB. Okay, this is the third product which SAP added in this HANA MaxDB. So when it comes to this SAP HANA database, the entire data resides in memory. Understood? For example, if something goes wrong with the database or if something goes wrong with the system, are you going to lose the entire data? Anything can be happen, right? So for that purpose, SAP added one more technology called MaxDB, which is used for backup purpose. Understood? So this will provide the backup and restore functionalities for your SAP HANA. What we are discussing, the entire data in HANA database is going to be stored in memory. If something goes wrong, if power goes off, then what happens? The entire data will be lost from the in-memory. How you are going to get that data? You are not at all going to get that data. So we have one more technology called MaxDB, which is used for only backup and restore. And this will be available on your mechanical drive, mechanical disk. Understood? Any confusions here? So again, the conclusion of this SAP HANA, as we discussed, there are three technologies which SAP acquired to develop this SAP HANA database. The first one is Trex. Okay, this Trex technology provides in-memory computing functionality to your HANA database. And then the second technology, P start time, which will provide you the writing capability of traditional database. Understood? We still need to have the traditional database functionality, that is write functionality. And then we have MaxDB, which is for backup purpose, because you are going to store the entire data of HANA database in memory. So if something goes wrong with the system, you cannot get back the data again. So you are going to add one more technology called MaxDB, which is only used for backup and restore. Nothing is going to be processed and performed here in this MaxDB. It is just for backup and restore. Okay, so this is the brief introduction of what exactly SAP HANA database. Okay, and now I'll show you what we are going to cover in this SAP HANA database.
Andrew, I have a small question.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, the SAP HANA didn't have a particular backup structure.
Sorry?
The SAP HANA didn't have particular backup structure, or it should be depends upon the MaxDB.
No, it has a backup structure. You are going to have backup in SAP HANA database, and that backup is going to be performed in MaxDB, which is your...
Suppose if the MaxDB...
Yes.
Okay. Suppose if the MaxDB is not there, okay, not configured for additional backup purpose. So suppose HANA database backup, we are going to take the backup from...
Where you are going to take the backup? Where you are going to take the backup? Where you are going to store the data?
In tapes or hard disks or some third-party tools.
Okay, that is okay. That is okay. But if something goes wrong with your in-memory system, every time you are going to restore it? Understood?
Actually, we have DR data.
It is an inbuilt technology. Again, okay, I can understand your question. It is an inbuilt technology. You are not going to install all these separately. SAP HANA database is developed by these three technologies. You are not going to install Trex separately. You are not going to install pstart time separately and MaxDB separately. By all these technologies, SAP HANA database is developed, and there is no chance of using other database. You can ask me a question. Instead of MaxDB, can I use some other database for backup and restore purpose? No, it is a inbuilt technology. Understood? Okay. Okay then. So this is what the introduction of SAP HANA database, and what we are going to cover in this SAP HANA database administration is we are completely covering HA200. Okay, we are covering HA200 document, okay, which will help you to write the certification. After completion of this training, you can directly go for the certification. I can assure you for your certification if you really practice well after every session. So we are going to cover SAP HANA technology overview, introduction to SAP HANA, in-memory, strategy, BWA, business warehouse accelerator tool, in-memory computing, hardware innovation. So this is what SAP HANA technology overview. And we'll discuss about the versions of SAP HANA database. Okay, SP03, 4, 5, and the current version is SP09, SPS09. And we'll discuss about what are the editions we have. We have platform edition, what you are going to get with this platform edition. We have enterprise edition. If you go for this enterprise edition, what you are going to have, then we have enterprise extended edition. Then we'll discuss about SAP HANA sizing. We have the concept of pre and post installations. And we'll discuss about the interface by which we can communicate with the database, HANA database. So we'll discuss about HANA Studio. We'll discuss about some other tools by which we can administrate HANA database. Okay, HANA architecture, which is one of the most important concept to understand the functionalities of HANA database. Understood? SAP HANA hardware and software requirement, prepare installation parameters, user created during the installation, required installation media, prepare installation configuration file. Everything we are going to discuss about this. Then when it comes to HA200, in HA200 or in your HANA administration certification, there is no installation concept. You have separate 11 vendors who are certified for installing your SAP HANA database. But still, in our training, we are going to discuss about installation, and I'll show you hands-on for this installation. We will install through command line, and we'll install this HANA database through GUI.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, when you go in a real-time scenario, the HANA is already installed, or I mean,
So it depends whether it is install or are you going to implement the HANA database. HANA database, we have a concept for that. We are going to discuss about this concept for almost 1 to 1.5 hours. So what are the approaches we have? We have sidecar approach. We have different approaches. So whether you are going to install SAP HANA database as a primary database for an existing SAP application, or are you going to install SAP HANA database as a secondary database for the existing application, that we will discuss in more detail. Okay?
the GUI through which we will communicate with the database is same as like the technical guys do, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we have, but we don't have SAP GUI. You can also access SAP HANA database through SAP GUI, but HANA database must be the primary database for your SAP application. Then only you can access your SAP HANA database data through SAP GUI. Understood?
Okay.
Okay, and you have a separate tool called SAP HANA Studio, by which you can perform all SAP HANA database administrative activities. Still, we have some other tools like DBA Cockpit, we have HDB SQL command, we have Solution Manager. By these tools also you can perform HANA administrative activities, but there are few functionalities, there are few activities which you cannot perform by DBA Cockpit, HDB SQL command and Solution Manager. So SAP HANA Studio is a tool by which you can perform all SAP HANA database administrative activities. We'll discuss that. Okay? So SAP HANA tool overview.
Amrup, you are going to give the session on which version HANA?
SP09, 08 and 09.
SP09.
Okay?
Okay.
08 and 09. We'll use 08 and 09. Okay? So SAP HANA tool overview, we'll discuss about SAP HANA Studio, DBA Cockpit, HDB SQL command. Along with this, we'll discuss about Solution Manager as well. Okay? Installation of HANA Studio, post-installation steps, HANA operations, how we can start and stop HANA database. There are a number of
I have
ways.
another question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so when you people will be giving a software to install to practice, so it is necessary to have the install software on the same laptop on which you are giving the class?
No. Also,
Okay.
we are not at all going to install this SAP HANA database on our laptops, and it is also not possible because HANA
I
database
mean,
supports only two operating systems. One is Linux, SUSE Linux, and the second one is Red Hat Linux. And up to SAP HANA SP07, you can install your SAP HANA database only on SUSE Linux, and from SP08 you can install your SAP HANA database on two operating system. That
so
is,
for practicing, we'll be doing it on virtual machine or just server access?
you will get the server access.
Okay.
You will get the server access. So they will give you remote access so that you can directly connect to the system. I can show you that now. Okay, this is our server access. So we can directly log on to our SAP HANA database system, which is installed on Linux operating system, and this is your SAP HANA Studio. Okay, anyhow, no problem, don't worry, I'll provide you all the information to access your SAP systems, HANA system. Okay, so we have starting and stopping, we'll discuss about this, and we have data provisioning tool by which we can load the data from source system into SAP HANA database. We have SLT tool, we have direct extractor configuration, and then we have SAP HANA securities. This portion will cover SAP HANA securities, maintaining users and authorization. It is called SAP HANA security. Okay, we'll discuss about
The tools what
yes, please go ahead.
the tools what you're calling about is the exe file or the T code that we use in the SAP?
Which one?
The
No,
DBA cockpit.
no, these are the separate tools. You need to install these. Anyhow, when it
Okay.
comes to DBA cockpit, this DBA cockpit can be configured on SAP NetWeaver systems. You need to establish the communication from HANA database to your NetWeaver system or solution manager, and then you can perform administrative activities by executing this DBA cockpit transaction code. Okay? Okay. So then we'll discuss about HANA database backup and recovery, and we have monitoring and troubleshooting. We have SAP HANA logs and traces. So how we can monitor and how we can configure traces, that we are going to discuss here. And we'll discuss about updating HANA Studio, and we'll